In today's video, we're taking a closer look at the Wirsh Geimori GU38 coffee grinder and going through a full review of what it has to offer. This model comes equipped with 38mm stainless steel conical burrs, powered by a 96-watt motor, and features stepless grind adjustment, giving you precise control over grind size for different brewing methods. Another standout point, especially at this price level, is the full metal construction, which adds both durability and a more premium feel. Before we get into the details, a quick note. I received this grinder from Wirsh, but this is my independent review, and the brand had no influence over my opinions or final assessment. Now, a few words about the company itself. Wirsh aims to bring the barista experience to a wider audience by creating products that are easy to use, thoughtfully designed and reasonably priced, while still delivering solid, everyday performance. The idea is to make good coffee at home more accessible, without unnecessary complexity. So, let's see how the Geimori GU38 fits into that vision. I've already posted a short video showing the full unboxing, but in brief, you get the grinder with a wooden lid, a dosing cup, bellows, a power adapter, an RDT spray bottle, a cleaning brush, and the user manual. Overall, it's a fairly complete set. Everything you need to start using the grinder right away. Let's take a closer look at the design and build quality. The grinder is made entirely out of metal, in this case, aluminum. My unit comes in black, but there is also a white version available. On top, you have a rubber bellows, which helps push out any remaining grounds from the grinding chamber. The wooden lid is actually very well made and even includes a seal. Personally, I really like the combination of black equipment with wooden accents. It gives the grinder a nice, slightly more premium look. On the bottom there are anti-slip rubber feet. In terms of size, it measures 9.2 cm in width, 16 cm in depth, and 31.4 cm in height, and it weighs about 3 kg. For a 38mm burr grinder, it's actually quite large. Visually, it even feels bigger than something like the DF64V, especially with the bellows installed. Because of its shape and relatively tall profile, it doesn't feel perfectly planted on the counter. There's a slight wobble during use, particularly when pressing the bellows. Another interesting detail is the coffee exit chute. It's mounted in a way that lets grounds fall straight down from the grinding chamber rather than at an angle, which can help reduce retention. It is removable for cleaning, as the chute itself is threaded and screws out, but it tends to squeak quite a bit when being unscrewed. The dosing cup is also made of metal. It's designed for 54mm portafilters, which is a somewhat unusual choice. 51mm or 58mm would probably be more universal. That said, the build quality is good, and I haven't noticed any significant issues with grounds sticking to the inside. The dosing cup is magnetic, which means it fits perfectly into the base of the grinder. On the back, you'll find the power input, which is positioned slightly to the left rather than perfectly centered, and fortunately, the cable is not permanently attached. On the right side, there's a simple on-off button, which lights up blue during operation and feels very solid to use. The grinder features stepless adjustment with very fine control. The adjustment itself is smooth and easy to dial in, and the scale is clear and readable. There are around 65 marked levels, but you can go beyond that with additional rotations for coarser grinding. It's also worth noting that the grinder comes factory calibrated, so there's no need for any additional recalibration out of the box. Inside, both the burrs and the grinding chamber are made of stainless steel, which is a big advantage, especially at this price point, where stainless steel burrs are quite standard. But the grinding chamber itself is often made from lower quality materials. The grinder uses 38mm 6-core conical burrs with a hardness of 58 HRC. The hopper capacity is about 30 grams, and it includes an anti-popcorn lid. While it does help with consistency, occasionally beans can get stuck, and you may need to gently tap or shake the grinder to get them moving. The grinder uses a 96-watt brushed DC motor running at around 190 RPM. Grinding 18 grams for espresso takes just under a minute, but I'll talk more about the motor performance, including sound and consistency, later in the video. Hey, if you're enjoying the video, consider leaving a like and subscribing. It really helps the channel grow and supports what I do here. Thanks! I checked how the grinder behaves across a range of settings, from finer to much coarser. I tested levels 5, 10, 15, 30, 60 and also 30 after a full additional rotation, which is already in the very coarse range. According to the user manual, the recommended range is 0 to 20 for espresso and 25 to 50 for pour over. As you can see on screen, the grind size changes quite noticeably between these steps, from fine espresso grounds up to much larger particles on the coarser end, giving you a clear sense of how wide the usable range is. I also tested how the grinder performs in terms of retention, using both bellows and RDT, a light spray of water on the beans to reduce static during grinding. With that setup, retention comes out to around 0.1 grams, which is a solid result considering there's no built-in plasma generator. The bellows help a bit, pushing out around 0.3 grams of additional grounds from the grinding chamber. Without RDT, the retention is fairly similar, but there is slightly more mess around the grinder. Overall, for its price range, the grinder performs very well in terms of retention. Now, let's move on to the espresso performance. In my testing, the sweet spot for grinding turned out to be around setting 12. I used 18 grams of medium roast coffee from Nicaragua, which I personally find works really well for espresso. Grinding 18 grams took about 50 seconds. In terms of noise, I measured around 61 decibels idle and about 70 decibels during grinding, which makes it a very quiet grinder in use, especially compared to many models in this category. As for the extraction, it was stable and predictable. I used my usual profile, starting with a 3-bar pre-infusion, then ramping up to 9 bars and gradually reducing the pressure down to 6 bars towards the end. My target was around 38 grams of espresso, giving roughly a 1 to 2.1 ratio, and the total extraction time was just under 30 seconds, right where I wanted it to be. Visually, the espresso looks great, with a rich, dense crema, and I have to say, the taste was a very pleasant surprise. The cup shows good separation of flavors, with chocolate, cranberry and marzipan being the most noticeable notes. For a grinder in this price range, I'm honestly quite impressed. The acidity is gentle and the bitterness remains very subtle, making for a really balanced and enjoyable espresso. Now, let's take a look at pour-over performance. As you probably know, I personally prefer espresso, but this grinder is definitely capable of going coarse enough for filter brewing. For this test, I used the Have More dripper, which I've already covered in one of my earlier videos. I ground 16 grams of coffee at around setting 30, and the grinding time was about 38 seconds. My target was roughly 260 grams of brew in around 3 minutes. In this case, this particular coffee clearly works better as an espresso. As a pour-over, it's not especially exciting. I'm getting slightly tobacco-like notes and almost no acidity. You can also take a look at the coffee bed. It appears a bit muddy, although that's partly due to the finer grind required for this dripper. With a different coffee, the overall pour-over experience would likely be better. Cleaning this grinder is actually very simple. For regular maintenance, it's enough to wipe it down with a soft cloth, and using a handheld vacuum can also help keep things tidy. Clean the dosing cup and the bellows. The bellows can be rinsed with water, but make sure it's completely dry before using it again. It's important not to use water to clean the inside of the grinder. For a deeper clean, you'll need to remove the bean hopper. To do that, rotate it towards the coarser grind setting until it loosens and comes off, giving you access to the grinding chamber. It's worth cleaning the grinding chamber and the anti-popcorn lid. If needed, you can remove it, but you'll have to use a screwdriver. From there, you can take out the upper burr and the bearing. These can be cleaned using the included brush, and optionally a blower or handheld vacuum, which makes the process much easier. You should also clean the lower burr and the coffee chute. Once everything is clean, simply reassemble the grinder. Place the upper burr back onto the springs. Press it in, reinstall the bearing, and screw the hopper back on by turning it towards the finer grind settings while gently pressing it down. Overall, the Wirsh Geimori GU38 is a really well-built grinder, and that's something that clearly helps it stand out in this price range. It delivers solid results for espresso, it's noticeably quiet during grinding, and retention is quite low. That said, a built-in plasma generator could help reduce static even further. When it comes to minor drawbacks, there's the slight instability on the counter and the relatively large size. It could definitely be a bit more compact. But aside from that, I think this is a really decent grinder, especially for beginners and home coffee enthusiasts. Right now, you can also find it at a good price using my discount code in the description. Let me know in the comments what you think about this grinder. Thanks for watching, and I'll see you in the next video.